Welcome to Boris FX Live. Sponsored by Dell, NVIDIA, and Intel.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Boris FX Live. I'm Ben Brownlee and I'm going to be joined today by photographer and digital artist Renee Robyn. We're going to talk about her work and how she uses Boris FX optics in her process, and she's going to be sharing some image breakdowns, and then we're going to delve deep into the tools and thought processes behind some of her stunning pictures. So strap in everyone, we are in for a good ride. Now we are live and this means only one thing. I want to hear from you. So how do you take part? Well, it is easy. All you have to do is, if you're watching on YouTube or on borisfxlive.com, then what you want to do is go over to the little chat box right next to the viewer and start tippy-tapping your questions in now. I'll be getting to as many of them as we can throughout the stream. And of course, there is another reason to head over to borisfxlive.com as well, and that is your chance to win one of our big prizes today. So what are we giving away? Well, I have got 2 one-year subscriptions of optics to go to 2 lucky people. That's 1 each. We're not going to get greedy here. Come on, let's calm down. And I am also going to be giving away a copy of the Boris FX Suite. That's a 1-year subscription. It is worth $1,295, and that is going to 1 lucky winner as well. So come over to borisfxlive.com, go to the bottom of the page and put in your details there. Full terms and conditions are found on the website. I just want to say thank you also to our sponsors, NVIDIA, Dell and Intel, for helping to make all of this possible. We are very grateful to all of our sponsors, but I'm going to give a big shout out to the Precision 3660 Tower. Some say it's cost effective. I say there's scalable performance in a mini tower design, and it's super awesome. Thunderbolt 4 PCI.E cards, all of the good jazz. Head over to Dell.com to find out more details. And of course, follow us on all of the socials. You're watching us on YouTube, so if you like what you see, remember to give us a subscribe at some point in the stream. I will remind people at some points. But also on Instagram, Fatbook, and Twitterx. We are always there. And of course, if you are Gen Z or younger, head over to Discord as well. I'm not even sure if we've got the graphic for that now. Oh, we certainly do. Oh, perfect. Yeah, so scan this code to join our discussion with Boris FX experts. Or just head over to discord.io/BorisFX if you are an old person who doesn't have a QR reader on their phone. It's a great community actually, and we are very responsive to all of our peeps there. So head over. It's fun. It's growing. It's there. Alrighty. Well, let's stop all the nonsense now and head back to actually the main part of the show. So Renee Robyn is a photographer and an expert in building worlds, both grounded and high fantasy, through her composite photography. And I'm delighted to say welcome to Boris FX Live, Renee.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
No, thank you very much for joining me and for listening to my rambling intro. I hope we're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this.
I identify as an old person.
Perfect.
So I understand.
Perfect. Now, yeah, I mean, but I love Discord, but I'll actually we'll come to the reasons why I love Discord a little bit later, because they're going to fit in with something else I think I want to talk about a little bit later as well. But I mean, let's start actually by talking a little bit about you rather than my love of Discord, and then in a minute we'll start to look deeper at your work, if that's all right.
That's totally fine. Yep.
I mean,
awesome.
The first question I have, it's a very broad one, but what sort of drew you into photography in the first place?
Do you want the fast version or the sort of fast version?
let's go with the sort of fast version.
Okay, and just so you guys know,
yeah.
my cats are doing the Royal Rumble. They're fighting in the corner there. So if you see tiny tufts of hair or any squeaking, they're fine.
Well, there will be a cat tax later, just so you know.
Yeah. I want to see everyone's cats.
Okay.
But yeah, so how this started, like the fastest version possible is I started in this industry back in 1997. My introduction into this world was through the modeling side. So I got signed when I was 13 and I started getting into modeling from that side. But then I also started digital art back then as well. I started using Adobe Photoshop, and back when it was Photoshop 5, and I quickly went up to 7, but like Photoshop 7, not like CS7. Everyone's like, oh, CS7. I'm like, oh, that's adorable. No, like way further. Keep going.
Okay.
This hat hides a lot of gray.
I know nothing about gray at all.
Yeah, nothing, no secrets. But yeah, so basically that got me kind of into the industry and into the world of digital art. I feel like we should take points over which cat's going to win.
my one's the one on the left. There we go.
Yeah, they're just like going for it. Amazing. Arseholes. Anyways, so yeah, but then basically 11 years into modeling, I got really bored, and I was just like, oh, okay, well, I've getting into photography from the modeling side is kind of funny because they're like, oh, being a model means that you become a really good photographer. I'm like, well, for me, it didn't anyways. Maybe for some people it does. But for me, it was like watching Olympic level swimming, but never actually getting my feet wet. Like I knew how to spot good taste, but I had no idea how to do it myself. Right. So I had to like do the thing. So I had really good taste, but I had good enough taste. And then I had to like put the time into it. And basically like a few months into taking photos of like macro stuff, because I found that this camera that I had, a point and shoot, had a flower setting on it. And I was like, whoa, flower setting, I can get super close to stuff. Turns out that's the macro setting. And I was like really excited about it. And so I went from that. And at the time I was also like building my own motorbikes, because motorbike singular. And I was riding it to work one day and I got hit and run over. And I was just like, oh my God, like what am I supposed to do? Because up until then, all my skills I needed my legs. I grew up on a farm, so like I was strong and I worked in trades and like, and then I had modeling and like all this stuff, everything involved my legs. And they're telling me like I might not walk again, or I might not keep my leg, or all this stuff. And I was just like, holy crap. What are we supposed to do? And I was just like, well, the only other skill that I have that doesn't necessarily involve my legs is photography, and I'm not very good. And so I can't shoot weddings because I can't walk, and I can't shoot families because I can't walk. But there's this thing called digital art, and this is like early compositing, like Creative Live didn't exist, Flickr didn't exist, any of these things, and I wasn't active on Flickr. I didn't know about Flickr. And so I was just like, well, there's like compositing, so I guess I can bring the world to me. And so that's what I would do, is like 8 hours a day I would be in physio trying to figure out how to get my toes to work again. And then I would spend the rest of the time that I was awake teaching myself like how to actually be good at Photoshop in a way that can make a living. So it went from like, making fonts and like learning how to make like cloud textures and crap, which is like whatever. I never really applied it to much photography until all of a sudden I was just like, we have to feed ourselves.
We have to.
Has to work.
That's amazing, though. I mean, but not the actual thing that happened, but the circumstance, or the thing that it led to in the end. I mean, with that sort of concentrated sort of immersion. I mean, did that kind of sort of inform your style or anything, or inform how you started to see the digital world?
I'm not really sure. I mean, Panic has an interesting way of just being like, just go, because there was like no other option, right? So it was just I had no time to really think about it. It was just whatever is coming out the fastest and the easiest. And like, I mean, I say like learning new skills is kind of like grabbing a bunch of books on the shelves and like pulling on them and then seeing which one comes out first. And you're like, okay, that one came easier than the other ones. We're going to study that book. And so that's kind of how, yeah, that's how that all went. Fastest way possible.
So I mean, with that in mind, then what were the sort of the kind of the first things that you learned how to put together? I mean, when you start compositing things, I remember my first attempt at creating mats and masks, and they were a lot of very very manual, drawing of things.
Yeah.
What was it like that?
Not so much of the drawing. I mean, a friend of mine who worked at a video game company gave me a tip on blending modes, and that just like blew my mind. I was just like, hold on a second, what? I've been like, you know, basically pixel by pixel masking everything out, and it still looks like crap, but if I'm using blending modes, it's a little bit smoother. Like what? And that was definitely where it really started, where all of a sudden it was like, oh, I actually can transport people to another place if I can only photograph them on a piece of paper. And like, it just, I don't know, it just blew my mind. It was just like, I don't have to go out into the world. I can bring the world to me.
Well, I mean, let's think about that then. What can you sort of describe your style overall? Like, if you have
Uh,
a certain aesthetic.
I think it's the result of a kid that grew up on early video games and fantasy novels and crap like this.
Hey,
That's probably the best way to describe it. I just put that on the floor. I pulled it
there we
out of
go.
the shelf and I was like,
with
that's not going
with
to
a
go back as
big
smooth.
thump.
But yeah, I
So
mean, like, yeah, it's like that dark, gritty, I mean, well, over the years though, it's evolved too. Like I don't know. I kind of chase rabbits. But yeah, I don't know. I
well,
like it dark.
I mean, yeah, because that's what I was going to ask. Is like it sort of style tends to start someplace, and then eventually over the years, when you do something often enough, that style kind of tends to evolve into something else, and you sort of you look back and you go, well, it's these are the same starting points, but actually the end line has been is a lot different than where we started 10 years ago or something. um
Yeah, I mean, I think for myself, I had a lot of people comparing the aesthetic anyways. There people kept saying like, oh, your work has very like Frazetta influence. And I was like, who the hell's Frazetta? Because we're a little bit remote and whatever. And then I just one day just Googled the guy and I was like, I love this guy's work. I've seen this guy's work on like books and comics, but whatever. And I just never put the name to it. And that
mm,
was when I went like, oh yeah, no, that is definitely a very big subconscious influence. So I guess we can blame Frazetta.
well, there we go. Well,
Yeah.
shall we take a look at some of your work then, if that's all right? Take a look at one
Yeah.
of the images now.
Yeah.
Just
Let's
as you're
do
getting that
that.
up, what I'll do is I will ask for more questions from chat, please. So chat, get your questions in. I will be sifting through those. I won't. I'm going to get someone else to sift through those and send me the good ones, and we'll ask those to Renee
Yeah.
in a little bit.
Let me double check to make sure the screen sharing is actually working. Oh yeah, there we go. Perfect. Yeah,
There we
awesome.
go.
Okay,
Perfect.
right now. Sweet. Yeah. So I have like a couple simple composites today, and then I have one that's a little bit more involved, but still not too crazy. And then I was going to walk through one of my favorite effects with Boris effects that I like to use that I think a lot of people don't really understand how it works, and it kind of intimidates people, but it is kind of fun. But
Love
yeah,
it.
so seeing as it's spooky season, I figured I would do some witchy stuff, and this is my friend Deb. And it started looking like this, which is pretty normal. It's like my studio stuff, and then just like a tiny little bit of skin work, but not much because she's basically perfect and I want her genetics. Um, and from here, just added a little bit of hair, just using hair brushes and stuff like that. This is a mystery layer. I don't know. There's a bunch of digital artists out there who were like, I name everything and everything is perfectly organized. When it comes to personal work, I'm not that person. Like at all. So here what I did is, this is a hue saturation adjustment because I wanted her eyes to get like a little bit spooky, and my computer is going to be a little bit slow because it's mad at me. But so basically what I did was I took some eye brushes, like retina brushes, and I just did a hue saturation on them just to kind of give them this weird shape. And it doesn't really show up very well if you see it far away, but I just like that it's there. And then from here, I just added in the background, and this one is one that I actually rendered out in Midjourney. I was experimenting with some stuff, and I was just like, oh, I wonder if, because I have a lot of mixed feelings on machine-made artwork, but every now and then they come out with a texture, and I'm like, I can't find that anywhere I looked. And I really like it. So yeah. Sorry, you're going to say something, or?
No, I was going to say I really want to talk a bit more about Midjourney and actually, generative art in a little more detail later, if that's all right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm very opinionated about it, and most of my opinions
Perfect.
are conflicted.
There we go.
My opinions are all over the place. But yeah, so this one here is just like a really subtle use of the optics free lens and mist filters. So I basically went into optics, and I'll show you guys. This is the free lens is what I want to walk you through. And basically I just made it very, very subtle, because a lot of times I find when people are using effects like these, they tend to go in pretty ham-fisted and really hardcore with it. But I just want most of the times these effects to be quite subtle. And I also had part of the dress here that was just kind of annoying me. Like I didn't like that I could see from like a compositional standpoint, I could see the side of her calf there. I just found it distracting. So I just copy and pasted some more of the dress over. This is probably sharpening. Again, you're supposed to lay me layers. And then this is just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of dodge and burning that nobody's going to be able to see but me. And I find, like, I think especially, like, this is one of the things that I find so important about doing personal work is you get to experiment and pay attention to things that no one else is going to notice except you, and I think that's so important if you're developing your style, especially if you're new to creating work, is making sure that you're spending that time and just doing only the stuff, like I do the stuff that other people are going to notice, like replace the background or whatever. But, those little experiments, they really do matter, and they really do build up over time to making yourself like can't say better, but a more interesting artist, in my opinion, anyways.
Oh, I'd absolutely say better. I think those sort of small details and that sort of attention means that you start looking at the artwork with a different view, with a different sort of care in many ways, I think. And I think that's hugely important.
Yeah, I mean, it is at the end of the day, the details that really do matter. And maybe there's only 2 other digital artists in the world that are going to notice those tiny little details, but it's fun. As somebody who consumes a lot of digital art, I find it is really enjoyable to be like, oh, hey, I love that brush pack. I can see they use that brush pack, and that's so cool. I love how they created that texture, or wondering like, oh, is that using this technique, or is this using a technique that I'm unaware of? So yeah. So this is where we started again. Like I said, I just leaned into the spooky season stuff. So I was just like, skulls and witchy babes. So yeah, tiny little bit of skin work, which is again easy peasy. And this one here, this is just to get rid of, there's a little tiny shadow. So my studio has a cove, and it always creates this little shadow here in the corner because I shoot from quite far away, and it just refracts the light differently. So I was like, and off you go. And in this case here, these are just cloud layers on blending modes. I remember what I said earlier about discovering blending modes, and I was like, what? The top one is on screen blending mode, and I just kind of like masked it all over the place. And from like a physics standpoint, this image doesn't make much sense, but I don't always make images to make sense in physics. I think sometimes I just like making stuff because it looks cool. And that's enough for me, especially when I'm doing just personal work. Again, just added a little bit more hair, just using a hairbrush again. And this is one of my favorite features in Boris optics is the moon filter, the lunar. Correct me on that one.
Lunar.
Lunar,
Yes, S
that's it.
Lunar.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I totally love this one and I've used it a lot. And then I just added this very, very subtle orange glow behind it that I later regretted. But we're going to leave it in for now because I left it in until far too late and it was too much work to get rid of it. So hue saturation adjustments. This is again like really subtle on her eyes, and I overdid it at first, so I had to go in. We're just gonna let my computer catch up. It's a little sleepy today. I'm gonna close you. No, we're not gonna save. But yeah, so this is just really subtle stuff again with the eyes and using different brushes on the eyes itself. And it's definitely overkill, but that's okay. I take it down a little bit later. And then this is just a little bit of dodging. I have a lot of friends that do dodge and burning, and I hate dodge and burning so much. I love beautiful dodge and burning when it's done on work, and I just hate doing it myself. I love, love, love looking at it though. When it's done really nicely.
We will have conversations about dodge and burn in just a minute. We absolutely will.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan.
I love how it looks. I just hate doing it myself. I'm always just like, ah. But it makes such a big difference, right? Like it really does make a huge difference in an image. And I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that even as you're doing it, you don't actually know what it's doing until you turn that layer on and off. So you're working and you're going, yeah, this is going to be good. I mean, just to catch people up, dodging and burning is where you are literally just sort of painting shadows a little bit deeper, or that the highlights just a little bit more highlighty, and it's you're going to be super subtle with it, and there's tons of things you can do. You can actually use it to lift shadows out and do all of that sort of fun stuff. But yeah, it's one of those things that takes quite a lot of time because you are going over the same place with a 1% brush. So you're never quite sure which stroke is the one that is going to make this thing look really, really good, or tip it over and look, horribly artificial, and have to use, liberal use of the Control or Command Z keys.
Yeah, the whoops. Yeah, I have definitely overcooked more than one image, and I've undercooked more. So this is just an Adobe Camera raw layer where I just basically did added in texture and contrast, the contrast detail slider. And then from here, I went into the optics photographic filters and basically just like popped through ones till I found one that I thought looked nice. And then this one here, this was a new one that I'm going to play with a little bit more, I think. So this layer here is the optics paint layer, and it looks like this normally. So it looks like nonsense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But if we take it down and we put it onto a soft light blending mode and take the opacity down, it kind of has this effect of making everything look a little bit painted. So we can see it especially on the skin itself. You can see almost these brush strokes a little bit. And it has to be subtle because I find, obviously, if you push it up too far, for my own taste anyways, I can't say that I'm too into it. I really didn't like what it did here on the fingers and so on. But then again, there's probably an artist out there that's going to just like straight up prove me wrong and be like, this is what it looks like at 80% and it's awesome. And I'll be like, oh crap, it totally is. Nice work. But for me, I couldn't make it work for my own aesthetic anyways, more than like 30% on soft light. And it also added this really nice kind of contrast as well, which is what the soft light layer does. And then from here, I went in and I used the optics black mist filter. And then I also realized that the curve around the moon here I didn't like it. So I went in and just healed all the way around. And I was like, nope, off you go. And then, yeah, just a little bit more dodge and burning because I found that between the black mist and the optics paint layer, it kind of flattened out her face a little bit, which is again, not surprising, especially considering the soft light layer is going to make everything a little bit darker. And then the black mist filter is going to kind of flatten everything out a little bit. So I just added a little bit more shape in. And then what I did from here is I went to the film damage layer, and I just filled this whole layer. Let me just hide you, disable. So originally, straight out of optics, it looked like this. And then I basically changed the blending mode of it down to divide, and I put a mask on to mask my subject out so it wasn't going over top of her. Although on retrospect, I should have had some of it going over her knee just to kind of wrap it around her a little bit, I think. I think that would look nice. But then anyways, and so I put on divide blending mode and I turned the opacity down and I had inverted it so it's white instead of black. So it's a little bit more, it stands out a little bit more.
Okay, divide blending mode. That's one that you don't normally see. Was that a conscious choice, or was that you?
I basically started at the top, and it just went through, and I was like, which one doesn't look horrible? And I was like, divide. Weird, because I can probably count on one hand in 25 years how many times I've used divide, and that's probably
pretty much the same. Yeah.
Nobody ever uses divide. They don't get rid of it, but which is great because I needed it today. But divide blending mode is definitely, I mean, I use difference all the time. I use subtract frequently, exclusion sometimes, difference quite a bit. Luminosity, color, hue, saturation, lots. I never use hard mix, pin light, linear light. Well, linear light I use for frequency separation. But vivid light, pin light, and hard mix, I don't use them very often either. But the rest of them I use pretty frequently. But divide, never. And it was just the right tool for the job today. So that worked. And the other thing that I had to keep in mind is the pros and cons of using optics is it was really, really sharp. So I did add just like a little bit of a blur to the layer itself. And I also added one to the moon because, of course, one of the things that can happen quite often is the textures that we bring in can be sharper than our subject itself. And so then we have competing sharpness for our, subconscious brain to pay attention to. It's like, chase the sharp and bright thing. And so that's one thing that I always look for when I'm critiquing people's work is making sure that their subject, particularly, whatever part it is that you want people to be paying attention to, in this case, like her face and her hands, are the sharpest and brightest point in the image. And then here I just did a curves layer just to kind of flatten things out a little bit more. And then Smart Sharpen, which is my favorite way to sharpen. You just go filter, sharpen, Smart Sharpen, and it's great. It works really well. I did a podcast a bunch of years ago now with one of the guys over at Adobe, and I was like, guys, you have 40,000 ways to sharpen. Which one is it? Which one is the best one? There's so many ways. And at the time, they had just come out with Smart Sharpen, and I have used it ever since. It's because it's great. I love it. And then this here is just a hue saturation layer, and basically I just increase the lightness a little bit and drop the saturation a tiny bit as well, because especially I find with oranges and reds, they can really hypersaturate way too much, which is also what's happening to her eyes. So I also went in and knocked that down as well. But yeah, so especially because I try to calibrate my work for print. And so I'm always trying to think, not necessarily how it's being viewed on screen, even though that is the most common place that it's going to be viewed. I am working on an art book and I have been for a long time, and all of this stuff is going to go to print. And so I want to make sure that when I hit send, that I send 300 images to the printer in a book, that I don't get one or two back and go, So I basically try to make every single image having like a tolerance of color on which, because everything, how it looks printed will change based on whether the book is printed, whether you get the early part of the day of the print, whether you get the middle of the day, whether you get the end of the day, the ambient temperature, there's so many things that can change how your image looks printed, never mind the piece, like the paper that you choose and the ink and the type of printing that you choose. So I always try to make sure that there's a little bit of flexibility in the work. So because when it comes to printing, there's always going to be, it's never going to be exactly the same every single time.
Do you use the proof color options then when you're actually working through to kind of get an idea of how it's going to look?
Yeah. So I will go through different types of colors. So I also, on my monitor, I have a bunch of different calibrations saved. So I want to be able to look at it and go, okay, what does this look like on like everyone's crappy laptop screen? What does this look on everyone's cell phones? What is, and I really try to tap through them and see if anything is standing out that's really obvious that looks terrible. And sometimes I miss things and sometimes I don't.
I mean, one of the other questions that's come through is there a reason that you separated all the layers out in Photoshop rather than whack the whole thing into optics and do it there? I know we're going to have a look at that multi-layer thing in optics in a little bit, but was there any sort of workflow reason for doing it this way?
Well, the biggest one being that I change my mind relatively often. Pardon me. And I wanted to make sure if I put everything out individually, then I can make individual adjustments later. And I don't know for sure, and you can definitely prove me if I'm wrong here, Ben, but as far as I know, unless I'm spitting it out as a smart object, I can't necessarily go back in and adjust every single one of those things individually.
Yes and no. Yes, if you're working with smart objects, you absolutely always 100% can go back in and change things up. The other way of doing it is to maybe even just sort of build things up in chunks, so you can have certain optics things all together, and then save that whole thing as a setup. Maybe we can have a look at that a little bit later. And then what that will obviously do, then what that will do for the people watching is make sure that all of those filters and masks are saved as a sort of Uber preset in many ways. So, but we'll take a look at that. But that's good. That's good to know. You like the flexibility of Photoshop, and I think if you've been working in Photoshop for goodness knows how many years now. Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to say the number again. I was hoping that we would get away from numbers. It's fine. You do build up muscle memory from that stuff as well. And you build up 100%. Your own personal workflows.
Yeah, 100%. That is a big part of it. And also I did build this for today's live stream. So I wanted every single step to be its own layer so that I could walk you guys through it without having to open up optics every single time. But we're going to do that with the last image. I will basically pull you in and we will do everything probably in one step.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. Well, I've got a few more questions to go through if that's all right. But actually, before we do that, I just want to say keep getting your questions coming in the chat as well. We are going to be asking them throughout here. If you haven't already done so, head on over to borisfxlive.com and you'll be in with a chance to win one of our big prizes. All you have to do is fill out the little form at the bottom of the screen and you can win one of 2 copies of Optics that we're going to be giving away, 1-year subscription to Optics. And if you're very lucky, at the end of the show, we are also going to be giving away a 1-year subscription to the Boris FX Suite, which is so many things. It is going to be optics. It's going to be Sapphire, which, as we'll see soon, some Sapphire effects are part of optics. It's going to be Continuum, as we'll see soon, some Continuum effects are part of optics. Mocha Pro Silhouette, and I'm sure I've forgotten lots of things. We have lots of products. I'm not going to give you the link to join us on Discord because that is going straight into the chat because the Illuminati have said that our old link that we were using, we're not going to be able to do that anymore. I am not 100% sure that it was the Illuminati, but I'm about 70% sure.
Let's blame them anyways.
That's it. They can only deny it by coming out the shadows. Let's give away a prize. Enough of the nonsense. Let's give away a prize. All right. We have got a 1-year subscription of Optics going to one lucky winner. And what I would like to do is I would like to start to spin up our super tombola, the super Boris FX tombola. It's going, it's rolling. It's very, very slow. today. You know, we've just put in a new motor to make sure that those names are properly mixed up. And our first winner is Louis Romero. Louis or Luis Romero. Congratulations. You are our first winner of the day. You've won Optics, a 1-year subscription. It's a $99 value. And all Louis had to do was head over to borisfxlive.com and type in his name and email address. Full terms and conditions are available on the website. And you could win too. There's still plenty of time to get your name in our mighty tombola of goodies. All right, we are talking to Renee Robyn. You're watching Boris FX Live. I am Ben Brownlee, and I have come equipped with some more questions from chat. Are you ready, Renee? And
yeah,
are you Renee ready? Okay, let's go. Let's go. Okay, how often are you using custom brushes in Photoshop?
Daily.
There we go. So what sort of stuff are you doing with that? Is it mainly for cloudy textures, or are you doing it for other fun stuff? Secret stuff?
Most of it I'm using for masking. I'm using custom brushes for masking, because I mean the auto select options in Photoshop are, thank God, getting so much better. But I still find for the level of detail that I like in my images, the auto select options will get me 75-80% of the way there. But I still have to go in and fine tune everything. And the soft ground brush and the hard ground brush just do not cut it for me. So I'm often using all kinds of brushes. And then also hair brushes, those are great. Iris brushes are super fun. Skin texture brushes, depending on what it is that I'm exactly retouching. Although I use those less often. I'm less experienced with those. But lots of stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, here's another one. Okay, the world. Oh, I can't read that. I need my reading glass. So I'm now at an age where we're just perfectly in focus up there, but anything between there and there is absolutely horrible. So
one of us.
I know. It's okay. Here we go. I'm going to read it from this backup screen over here. The world you bring to us is magical. Someone asks from chat, what are some of your favorite real places to visit and photograph?
Ooh, I mean, there's something really great about everywhere to photograph. But earlier this year, I had the opportunity to go down to South Georgia and Antarctica. And I have to say, everywhere else has been unseated.
Right.
South Georgia is amazing. The South Orkneys is incredible. And for the type of work that I like to create, I mean, it's just these huge black mountains thrusting out of the ocean with glaciers and wildlife, and it's cool. I mean, it doesn't have any of like the big cathedrals or any of that stuff that I like, that I like to find in, like Europe and so on. But man, South Georgia and the South Orkneys is just so freaking cool. And I know that wins. That's from South Georgia right there. Yeah, both of those are South Georgia. And there's like no editing done to those, like just like a tiny little bit of hue shift on this. That's it. That's South Georgia. That's ridiculous. Oh, it's so cool. That's the South Orkneys. That's also very, very, very cool. Yeah, I love that crap. That's just so awesome.
Well, I mean, that brings me over to our sort of other question then, which was sort of about some of the backgrounds that were created with Midjourney and other generative AI tools. You said earlier that there was obviously a big conflict that goes on in your head about that. Can you talk a little bit more to that?
Yeah, I mean, like, on one hand, it just feels like cheating, because all of the background pieces that I use, as much as humanly possible, I go out and photograph my own backplates. And, I have no kids, so that allows me to be able to be gone. Although I've since 2020, I'm now the servant of 2 cats. So I can't be gone for as long as I used to be. But you know, the tiny gods have mighty needs. Anyways, but I like to be able to go out and photograph all of the pieces. So like I can go there and I can smell the air and I can look at it and I can, because whenever I'm making composites, whether I'm photographing the back pieces or I'm photographing my subject, I'm looking at them not for what they are, but for what they could be. And when I'm in a place and I'm immersed in the place, I can start, like, those puzzle pieces just start falling together. And I basically have like 5,000 pots of like potential images just boiling on the back burner in the back of my head all the time. And that's really fun for me. Whereas like Midjourney and other generative tools out there, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. Like it just feels like I'm creating, like, it feels tabloidy a little bit, you know, because it's just so easy. But it also takes out a lot of the joy and adventure for me. But on the other side, I can create stuff that I can't find anywhere, right? And that's kind of where my line is if I can't find it on a stock site, and if I can't find it in real life to photograph it myself, then that's where I'll start like experimenting, going like, okay, maybe I can like get a couple pieces here and a couple pieces here and a couple pieces here. But, you know, and people always say like, oh, but the copyright. I'm like, oh, that's like not really the part that worries me about it. I worry that it will make me a lazy and apathetic and disconnected artist from the work that I make. And that feels weird to me.
I mean, that really, that sort of speaks to it, doesn't it? Because there's two. I'm gonna do a big statement here in a very few words. Ethical problems aside, there we go. That's my way of saying ethical problems aside. There are a couple of ways of using this as well. You know, you could be using it on the end of the thing to start to bring in some different textures or some different elements in there. But there's also the idea of using it at the start of the process as well, to kind of help to sort of get you out of a creative rut, or, you know, and sort of maybe trigger some sort of ideas in your head as well. I mean,
is
that something there?
Yeah, it is definitely a great cure. A friend of mine says it very eloquently. It's a great cure for blank page syndrome, and it super is. I mean, where I can kind of be like spitballing an idea in my head, and it's like 3:30 in the morning, I'm just about to fall asleep, and I go, I wonder if, and then I'll just like type something in, and then it's kind of like almost like notes for later, you know, because like, I don't know what you guys are like, but for me, some of my best ideas come either when I'm sleeping and I'm dreaming, or just before I fall asleep. And if it's just before I fall asleep, then I'll like just type it in quickly into Midjourney and just hit like, you know, render or whatever. And I won't even check it. I'll just go to sleep, and I'll wake up in the morning, and it's just kind of like that little note of being like, hey, remember this? And I go, oh yeah, that's right, there was something about that. And then from there I can build on it. Like, I'm not taking that piece, but it's also a really, really easy way to say, like, you know, if you're trying to cast for it, and you don't want to send them your horrific stick figure drawings, because that's what I do. It's what I was doing, you know, and I can just be like, look, it's going to be kind of like this, but it's not going to be this, but it's kind of, yes, no, are you in? Which is actually what I'm doing right now on a project. I'm working on this really big image, this like kind of large concept that popped in my head again, like just before I was falling asleep. And, you know, I'm casting for it. And you know, when I send people, because it's a nude shoot, so I'm asking quite a lot from people, you know, I'm asking for people who are like, I'm not looking for models, I'm looking for like everybody, you know, people who are just like cool with being photographed like completely naked, and you know, but without having to go through like, here's the paragraph and a half that you're not going to read on what this image is going to maybe look like, but like I'm not really going to know until I start putting it all together. It is an easy way to translate an abstract concept into something that, you know, in 10 seconds or less can be like, it's going to be ish, like that direction. And I do find that it's good for that.
Well, then, I mean, bringing it back to the real people. We'll come into cats in a second. We're going to come back to cats, because this is actually one of my I was going to say secret shame, but I feel no shame for this. But one of my favorite things to do is to create a group of stunning images of cats in clothes.
I
Because
do the same thing. I do the same
see,
thing.
that's it. I mean, I've got a very strong political reason for doing it. That you know, we're going to get into politics here now, and I'm just going to say that all of these statements are my own personal things, not Boris FX. I enjoy the early web, where it was pictures of cats and people talking about the X-Files on forums. And it's now my life's mission to take us back to Web 0.5. And I think that by creating lots of images of cats wearing clothes, that we can finally, relive and revive the dream of the internet as it was originally intended.
Yeah, I mean, I do cats in armor. I don't necessarily do clothes, but I have cats in like samurai suits. I have like fat cats wearing sunglasses and samurai armor, or like have little like hedgehogs and like chinchillas and bunny rabbits. And like, yeah, I mean, because like I Can Has Cheeseburger was one of the best websites. And I used to spam all my friends with thousands of photos of memes of cats every single week through email. Now I just do it through text, which is way faster, much unfortunate for them.
And that's it. This is this has been my this is my work at the moment. So Boris FX is my day job, and cats and clothes is my passion. So obviously we're gonna get into the kittens as roadmen phase of my life pretty soon. But
that's so good. I love it so much.
Right. Steering maybe the stream back onto track. I feel we've gone slightly off the rails, and I enjoy this immensely.
Oh, I could talk cats in clothes and cats in armor all day long. I don't even care. I do have
another question from chat. I've got another question from chat, and if I don't ask this one, I'm going to get told off. All right. I'm going to kind of come back to the cat questions later. Do you prefer to photograph real people or models, and why?
I like both. I like both a lot, and all for their own reasons. Both of the images, so the woman that I shared earlier, Deb, and the woman I'm going to show next, Erin, neither one of them, as far as I know, do much modeling. And I mean, they've done it in the past, but they don't really do it now. I photograph everybody. It doesn't really matter. It literally is like, what kind of story am I trying to tell, and what am I trying to do with the image? And both are great. Like, I totally love photographing both. I'm greedy.
Well, I mean, let's. I think we've got some of your. I mean, it's a horrible answer. I mean, I'm not gonna.
I'm greedy. That's the answer.
Yeah, that's it. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But we've got some of your portraits up on screen at the moment. Maybe we can get to the to these ones here. Yeah, because I really love your portrait work, and like I think one of the things that I really enjoy about it is you seem to be able to sort of like tease out like an edge on some of the sort of more delicate subjects, like maybe we've got a ballet dancer coming up here somewhere. Yeah. But also, like on the other side of that, you're actually able to draw the viewer closer into some of the more sort of challenging subjects as well. I mean, is this something you work on consciously?
Yeah.
To sort of
definitely
create that contrast.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. It's literally just an aesthetic and a story that I like to tell. So yeah, I just like it. So one of the things about my website is this woman here, she's a professional climber, so she technically doesn't model, I mean, like, the thing with the images on my website is that I have permission to use those images on my website. A lot of people that I photograph don't necessarily want the photos that I take of them on my website, so there is always like that limitation, which kind of limits the type of work that I show on my .com, whereas my social media feed is more of a hot mess of everybody. But
I mean, one of the other things I want to ask specifically about portraits then, and about sort of beauty work as well. I mean, because I used to do like high end beauty retouching.
oh wow, no wonder you like dodging burning, you masochist.
Yeah, well, that's it. And but one of the things that I was really always conscious of was keeping people looking human despite everything.
Yeah.
And one of the people that I used to work with actually would sometimes go, even less, and clients would sort of really push back and say that things looked, unfinished. So I mean,
Yeah.
this was probably 10 years ago, I'd say, and the tendency at the time was really to over polish things that was sort of
Oh yeah.
this
Everyone was
strangely
plastic. Yeah.
homogenous skin texture that wasn't really skin. It was sort of like weird aliens.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, have you found that that's changed at all in the industry?
Oh,
And
yeah.
is
I
there a
mean,
sort of responsibility as well for sort of defining
yes.
beauty in that way?
100%. Yeah, I actually I did a blog post a bunch of years ago that was one of the first things I ever did that went like somewhat viral in the photography world. And it was basically, it was a true story. I was in the supermarket and I was in the beauty aisle and I heard this young girl and she's just swooning over the makeup photos of all these models and just going like, oh my God, they're so beautiful and they're so perfect and they're so this and so that. And I was just like, okay, this girl doesn't know about retouching. I can't do this. Like I need to just go and show her. That's Scott. Scott's a musician. He doesn't really model.
Hey.
But anyways, yeah, so I went over there and I was like, hey, you know, uh, those photos are retouched, right? And she's like, well, what's retouching? And I was like, well, we can make a person's skin go from this to this. And every single one of these images is extremely retouched. And one of the things that I love, I mean, I was just like mindlessly internet browsing like a couple hours ago. And one of the things that I noticed that I loved was that like all of the crazy over smoothing retouching isn't really happening anymore. There's like a whole campaign around, especially in the beauty industry and the makeup industry, about not having retouching because it was also setting like on top of like false expectations of what we think we're supposed to look like day to day. Is also
Mm.
setting false expectations of what people thought makeup was going to do for them and like what a makeup artist could do to their face. Because like makeup moves, it like gets soft, it moves around, it like forms to your face. It doesn't just like stick on like a shield. And I think there was a lot of pushback in the industry to that. And I'm really grateful that there was because
Yeah.
like, man, it's just it does your head in. Like I work in the industry and every now and then I'm just like, oh God, like I wish I had her abs. And I think about it, I'm like, even she doesn't have those abs. Like
Mm.
that's like posing and like light and like sucking in and like I mean, I see these bodies when I go to the gym and I go to the climbing gym and I see what they look like normally. And I'm like, that is a normal, healthy, attractive,
Hmm.
perfect body in all of its lumps and shapes and everything else. And I am very grateful that that trend of 10 years ago is over because holy
Yeah.
crap. And also it was so much
Yeah.
work. God, it was so much work and for nothing. It was hours.
I mean, it was,
Hated it.
and that's the thing. You had people who were, in the very, very top percentage of attractiveness, sitting for hours in makeup before
Yeah.
even seeing a camera, with a
Yeah.
makeup artist always on hand, and then hours in retouch afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No
Like never
wonder it
mind that
messed
these
up
are yeah,
perceptions.
exactly. Like no one like it's I mean, yeah, no, I could really go on a rant about this for a while. Although this does remind me, there's this great I don't know if anybody here watches Bill Burr, but there's this great Bill Burr skit where he goes off about how like there aren't supermodels anymore and there's supposed to be supermodels. Like they're supposed to look down at the rest of us plebs who are like not perfect like they are, and we're supposed to be like, you're the best thing ever. We have technically like we don't have the supermodels anymore of the 80s and 90s. But also that's fine. Like I like when I go to a website and I'm looking for clothes, I can see like my body type on there and other people's body types on there and be like, this is
Hmm.
what the clothes look like on real people. And I'm just like, yes, finally, awesome. Stretch marks, bring it.
That's it.
Yeah. And
That's brilliant. No, that's I mean that's I'm really happy that yeah, that those moments seem to be passing.
Oh, it was so bad. Yeah, like because I remember seeing like the most popular photos that were winning contests, and I was just like they just like banging my head on the desk. I'm like, they look like plastic dolls.
So ugly. Yeah, so ugly.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
Well, should we get back into to looking at some of
Yeah,
your images then?
yeah, for
I'm
sure.
gonna again suggest that everyone who hasn't done so already, I can see that there's tons of questions I haven't asked yet, but keep your questions coming in chat. I will get to them, as soon as I possibly can. But so keep going. If you see the chat box to the right hand side of your viewer, use it. That's what it's there for. All right, let's have a look at the next image.
All righty. Is it still? Yes, it's showing. Awesome. Cool. Right on. Okay, so this is an image. So I have a YouTube channel, and this is a video that we are working on right now to get it to come out. So this is your sneak peek. Nobody has seen this image yet, other than Aaron. Pardon me. So this is Noble. He is a very handsome boy. He's a Lusitano stallion, and I'm working on an art book, like I mentioned, and this is one of the images for that art book. One of the last ones that I have to photograph for it. And I've been wanting to do this one for years and years and years. And it basically took me 10 years to figure out how to get this shot, which it doesn't seem like it should take 10 years, but it did. And in the video, I explain it all. But anyways, so this is the background image that I have put in for it, or at least the first stack of it. This I had photographed when I was in Iceland. Is these pieces here. So I definitely kind of put things together in like these weird layers and everything else. And then I needed everything to be more contrasty because this here, it's just all competing and it's all bad, and all my masking errors and everything are far more obvious. So I was like, nope. So this is my first time using Adobe's generative fill. Basically, it took so many tries to get a unicorn horn, though. Oh man.
Can we zoom in a little bit on that?
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. Once my computer figures out what's going on here. So this is the unicorn horn, and Adobe's program did not know what that looked like. I got a table leg for one of them, and I was like, close, keep going. It was just like generate. But yeah, so this is our fancy boy though, and Aaron is an excellent equestrian rider. Actually, if anybody sees other live streams I've done or anywhere else on my portfolio, there's a headless horseman with like the black horse with flaming hooves and stuff. That's her with her horse Ike. So yeah,
I love that shot. That's a great shot.
Thank you. But yeah, so let's just make that a little bit bigger. That fixes something somewhere, I'm sure. Another one of those layer 5, no idea what it does. A very tiny little bit of burning as opposed to dodging. I just wanted to add a little bit more shape into him. And I'm not going to show you my burning mask because as someone who used to do beauty work, you will laugh at me.
More. Oh, now I want to see even more.
It's so lazy. Oh my God, it looks like that. It's so bad.
Okay, you can get rid of it now. I've seen enough. That sickens me.
It's so bad. I hate showing my dodge and burn layers to like beauty retouches because they all just visibly shudder. They're all just like, oh, what is this? So I tried putting wings on, and that was a terrible idea. I tried like a few different things, and I was like, this looks like hot garbage. Nope. It also covered up like too much of everything. Like it would be fine if I didn't have a rider on maybe, but sucks. Anyways, so then I added some fog layers, and we'll just zoom in nice and close to see the before and after on that. So that was before. So again, this is like the subtle stuff that people don't really notice. And then I added a bunch of color correction to one of the layers of fog because I needed it to be more red to match the environment that I was putting everything into. And then from here, I just did a slight hue saturation adjustment. And then I do the thing that everyone gets horrified of, and all of my friends who work in like big commercial retouching houses, they all cringe whenever I do this. I merge everything into a single layer. And everyone, if you've ever done agency work, you all know that that is a terrible idea. And I did not make them smart objects because, again, this was personal work. But if I was doing this work for a client or something like that, every single one of these would be smart object layers for sure. Okay, so this is just a texture layer again. Pop that into Adobe Camera Raw. And then I just did a photographic, optics photographic layer. And I don't remember which one I did because this image took me like 3 days to make just to find like the right background piece and everything. Oh God, it just took forever. There's so many. I have like dozens and dozens and dozens of this image that are just like a total fail where it didn't work or the background that I chose didn't work at all. So yeah, it was so much work. But so that's how it goes sometimes. And then this one here is another photographic layer, but on a very, very, very low flow and opacity. So I just found that I wanted to add just like a little bit more green into it. And thing is that I didn't know I wanted to add a little bit more green into it. Otherwise I would have done this with curves. So I just went back into optics and just like tapped through a whole bunch of stuff till I was like, there it is. That's the thing that makes it suck less. And then hue saturation adjustment, I just bumped up the saturation on the background because I've just found that I didn't necessarily want the color pushed more on Noble and Aaron because he looks the color that he is basically pretty close here. I didn't really want to mess with that. Then I did a frequency separation, and that's where I do like, more of the color blending and I fix up any masks. So this is where I go in and like pixel by pixel, I fix my masking errors. And once Zoom figures itself out, there we go. So you can see here along the main. So that is before, and you can see these like little halos and shadows and everything like that along here. So I frequency separate those guys and I just take my time and it takes forever and I just get rid of them all. And I do that over every strand of hair. So it just is forever. But if you do your masking right and you don't cut corners like I did, you don't have to do that. But every now and then it gets you. Okay, so the next one I did was a black mist layer. Again, I really like it. I'm very curious to see what this is going to print like because I haven't printed it yet. This is just some more like screen painting. And I'm just bringing out like more details, adding more smoke and everything into the environment itself. Curves, basically just bringing down the exposure of the whole thing. Hue saturation, again, pushing up the saturation of the background behind. That is a mystery layer that does something. It looks like it probably reduced noise. Layer 13 copy, that's what it's called.
You've got to have mystery layers, otherwise, where's the spice in life?
Yeah. Are you really a digital artist doing personal work if you don't have a layer where you go like, that does something? And then this is just basically, this is a soft light layer, just like around Erin. I just wanted to bring the eye a little bit more towards her. So I made a little bit of a warmish kind of circular shape around there. Oh, that's just a slight little bit of dodging on her face. And I'm not going to show you that mask either because you're going to judge me super hard.
Okay. This one I can avoid. I can avoid this one. This is fine.
Yeah. And then so from here, it was an optic soft contrast and sharpening. And the soft contrast is really, really nice. And then I was like, I sat on it for a while because I was like, this looks pretty cool. I also did some like dodge, just like the dodge brush right on the layer, which again, anyone who works for agency stuff is just like cringing and sweating at the thought. But again, personal work, so whatever. But yeah, I just liked how it kind of gave it this kind of lava type look because I was there photographing the volcano when it was erupting. So I was like, not getting close enough for the actual lava, but I can fake it. And then I was like, well, if he's walking on fire, we need to have fiery hooves. So I added a bunch of sparks to the hooves. Just wait for my computer to catch itself up. There we go. I believe in you, little guy. So yeah, so just adding these sparks here because I was like, I don't know, sparks seems like a cool idea. So just adding little tiny pieces. Zoom that back out. Color balance. I don't know if anybody else is like this, but I go back and forth and like cool, warm, cool, warm, cool, warm. I do that constantly. I'm just like, do I want this image to be like, if I haven't made my decision before I start the image, like if I start this image just going like something has to work eventually, and then after 3 days, something finally starts to work, but I have no idea if I want this image to be warm or cool. It's a fight all the way through. And then this is just like a little bit more of the dodge and burn brush itself, like straight on the layer, because I realized after I basically left it alone for a little while, and then I came back to it and I was like, no, it still needs more highlights added into the ground. So that's what I did. And then this is a slight hue saturation where I noticed that the color of Noble wasn't really looking the way that he normally looks. He was a little bit too yellow. So I just reduced the saturation of him a tiny little bit. And layer 10 is a mystery layer. So yeah, but that's basically
Perfect.
days and days and days of messing around trying to get this right. So to go from there to there.
I think that that's really interesting that, you know, not only that you've got the time as a, you know, just a mark on the file name, you can, it's almost archaeological, the way that that's built up, like just digging through the different layers to find, you know, the back in the past, it used
Sedimentary layers of stress.
Like that's it. I mean, but is that useful though to sort of give an image time to sit and to simmer a little bit?
Yes. Yeah, I think having, especially if you're doing work where you're trying to express an idea or an opinion or just something that you've always wanted to make, sit on it. Definitely sit on it. That is so healthy to just let the work simmer and then come back to it and be like, did I make good choices? Did I not make good choices?
Would you call that the Fonzie technique? And if you don't, will you now call it the Fonzie technique? I
think that's probably a really good idea.
There we go. Thank you.
That's probably a really good idea. But yeah, so cool. This is my baby, and yeah, there's a whole video coming out of this guy. So yeah.
Can you plug your YouTube channel for us then, please?
Yeah, basically you just go at Renee Robyn and you'll find me, or if you search Renee Robyn Photography, I will be there.
So difficult. So difficult.
Yeah, super tough. I definitely picked something that was not my name.
I mean, that's probably a very good tip for
there it is.
You know, artists out there as well. If you're going to be a person living on your own art and your own name, don't try and get too cutesy with what you call everything.
Yeah, unless you really want to stick to that name and not use anything else. Because every now and then I'm just like, oh, like I'll see stuff that's like, oh, that was so smart, like how clever to not use your name, so that if one day you have to hand the reins to somebody else, you can, you know, so you get to be like this faceless artist a little bit. That's really fun too. But yeah. Anyways, that's
I mean, your name's got two things going for it. I mean, one, it's alliterative, and two, it's probably about the 8th most common name in the world. So it's easy to find someone else who's also called Renee Robyn.
I found a lot of Robyn Renees.
Oh.
Yeah, found lots of Robyn
Controversial.
Renees. Yeah.
A quick question here. With so many small steps and adjustments, how do you know, or probably better, how do you decide when you are done with an image?
When I'm tired of looking at it. I finally rip the Band-Aid off and I go, that's enough. We're good. I mean, if I'm working for a client, then obviously it's when they're happy with it. But for me, I find, like, do you ever like rub the hair on cats the wrong way and they go, and they kind of like, they get that kind of like, what are you doing kind of expression. That's what it feels like whenever I'm working on an image and it isn't quite right. and I can't figure out why I look at it. And I just like imagine my cats and me rubbing their hair the wrong way and the expression they give me. So I just kind of wait for that feeling to go away. But that usually goes away when I'm finally just like, I'm tired of looking at this. And then I'll step away, and then I'll come back like either a day or a few hours later and look at it and go like, is it good enough? And then it's either yes or no. And I mean, yeah, you can work stuff to death. Like there's still like 1,000 different things I could add to this image if I wanted to, but is it good enough? And the answer is,
yeah.
I'm happy with it. I can stand behind it.
I agree with that one. Yeah, I'm going to go, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm stoked on it. Like it took me 10 years to make that image. And like, yeah, like where it'll go next from here will probably be something different. I don't know, but it's good enough. I like it.
Perfect. One other quickie question before you head into the next shot. Like if you have okay, here we go. I'll pose it in the form of a question, which is how questions are usually put. Do you have a favorite artist whose work you admire and are inspired by? In fact, this has been asked a few times.
I mean, there's so much good art out there. So when it comes to photography and digital art, I mostly consume stuff that I don't make. That doesn't really influence my work consciously, although I'm sure subconsciously it does because brain. But I mean, like there's just so many artists doing amazing stuff. I mean, so like one artist that like I've tried to photograph like her before, just as like a joke, and then I looked at it and I was like, it doesn't keep up, so I'm not even gonna try. Is Bella Kotak. I mean, she does like really beautiful natural light portraiture outside with like flowers and pretty dresses and stuff, and I'm like, I don't photograph that stuff, but I love looking at it. Another one is Elizabeth Gadd. She does these self-portraits out in the middle of freaking nowhere. She does these like multi-day hikes out into nature and somehow hasn't been eaten by a bear yet, which is like my biggest fear. That's my biggest fear of going to out in the nature like she does. I just figure I'm going to get eaten by something. But she just like goes off and does these incredible self-portraits. And again, it's not work that I shoot, but I love looking at it. There is, I mean, God, I could talk for days on it. I mean, I have art books, like crazy amounts of art books. There's another photographer named Steve Richard who does nudes, which we can't show. We can't show those ones, but he does beautiful nudes of ballet dancers and aerialists and everything else, and just the way. So the fun thing that I love about Steve is a friend of mine, and so is Bella and Elizabeth. But like Steve's work, what's so fun is he will spend 8 to 10 hours building the lighting so that he can just like push the shutter, and then he doesn't do post work. Like, so he's still spending 12 hours or more per image to get what he wants, but he doesn't do anything in post. He famously has no idea how to do anything in post production, and so like that process to me is so fascinating that he would go into the studio and just spend 8 hours fine tuning. Like I've watched him work where he's just like, oh, that reflection's just a little bit off on the bottom of the chair, and therefore I need to fix that. And he'll spend like half an hour fixing it, and I'm just like, I just dodge that out with a brush and call it a day. Like, but he has to get it in lighting, and so that's just like such a beautiful process to me, and I'm very, very inspired by it, even though I'd never do it. Like I cannot. So.
Well, speaking of doing things digitally, should we head into optics and have a little look at an image there from scratch?
Yeah, let's do it.
While you're doing that, I'm going to just remind everyone that they are watching Boris FX Live. If you're enjoying Renee, and what she's talking about, there is one very good way of showing it, and that's that little thumbs up button. If you're not watching on YouTube, there is nothing to stop you from heading over to YouTube, hitting that little thumbs up button. It costs you nothing and it helps us out a lot. But if you're not watching on YouTube, how are you watching? You must be on borisfxlive.com. And there's another good reason to go there as well. We still have a prize to give away. In fact, we've got a couple of prizes to give away. We've got a 1-year subscription of optics, and a 1-year subscription of the Boris FX Suite, which includes optics, but it also has in Sapphire, Continuum, Silhouette, Mocha Pro, so many good Boris FX products. And let's do it. Let's give away a prize. Come on, I've talked about it long enough. I'm pretty sure that we've got the tombola revving up in the background. Here we go. We've got the drum roll. We got it going. And congratulations to you. And your name is Marsha Grassett. Congratulations, Marsha. You have won a 1-year subscription of optics, courtesy of Boris FX Live and, of course, Renee Robyn. So well done. Thank you very much for joining us, Marsha. If you are in the chat, let us know. Big applause in the chat as well there. Get your final questions in. We have still got some show left, but the time keeps on a tick-tocking. All right. Renee, are you ready to show us more stuff? Let's go.
Yeah, so this image is also from a YouTube video that's coming out. We were hoping to have it done by the time we went live today, and that was not happening. If anyone has done YouTube videos, you know how much work they are, because holy crap. So it's coming. It will be out soon. Yeah, everyone here at the Boris team nodding furiously, being like, oh my God, so much work. But anyways, yeah, so this is one that's coming out. And in this case, I chose this one because it's actually not perfectly sharp, which in this case, because I was thinking about it and I was like, I really like this shot, but it's a little bit blurry. And I was like, oh, but what can we do with that? And then I basically made this in optics, and I was like, it would be really nice to make an image that feels like a memory. And there is this rejection on top of this, like rejection of hyper polished, no skin texture retouching. There's this like push towards this kind of more realism. Now, everyone will say, and this is one thing that I'm very used to fighting, why didn't you just do it in camera? Well, I am never freelancing in front of a waterfall by the ocean with sea spray everywhere. That is not happening. You can do that to your camera. I'm not doing it to mine. So with that in mind, we're going to fake it. So we're going to go into optics. And we're just going to wait for this to load as long as it takes, because like I said, my computer's a little bit tired. I flogged this thing pretty hard. So,
we need to feed it more hamsters. That's the only way of getting this to work.
Oh my God. I don't know if they found the email I sent of all of, because I can screen share from here as well, the animals wearing clothes that I have rendered. I made a small selection of stuff, and oh my God, some of them are so cute. Oh my, I have this I did a little church mouse.
We'll get to them. We'll get to them. Don't you worry. Don't spoil it all. Don't spoil it.
There's so many. Don't worry. But yeah, anyways, I love that stuff. But yeah, so we are gonna basically take this non-sharp image and make it even less sharp. So first thing I'm gonna do is just go into the black and white here, and it doesn't really matter which one of these I use. I just want to make sure that I'm keeping contrast with my subject. So I have found, I was like playing around with this over the last few days, and I have found that the more texture the subject has, the more interesting it seems to look. And then there's probably someone out there, again, who's going to prove me wrong, and all the power to you, but I haven't been able to really figure it out. So if you have like a bunch of like jewelry or textured hair or like freckles or whatever, wrinkles especially, like great beards, like this effect I think looks really, really great. So yeah, so we basically made this black and white. And then from here, we're going to go into sepia, and let me just remember where sepia is hiding. That is, there we go. Yeah, grads and tints. So I don't have everything perfectly memorized yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So sepia 4 is looking pretty good. And I'm just going to go add one more here. And then from here, we're going to go into the diffusion and blurs. And this is where we're going to go to the freelance filter. And so from here, there's so much that we can do. It's bonkers. I have spent a lot of time in here kind of just going like, oh, which one is best? And the answer is they're all great for different images and for different reasons. So let's try the dreamy one. I'm basically just going to try to, and basically, so this is the thing that I always tell people with images is like, especially when it comes to apps like this and plugins, I just push sliders till I think it sucks less. I just kind of like push buttons around because like sometimes I have a super clear idea of exactly what I'm looking for and exactly what I want. And then other times I'm just like this hot mess of overtired. And I'm just like pushing it around and just feeling like imagining that cat with the hair rubbed the wrong direction, going like, ugh, I just don't feel right looking at this. And yeah, so basically like on the far right here, there's like all of these tilt that we can play with. Like this is what's so crazy about it is how customized everything here is. It kind of hurts my brain. Like it's one thing that I've heard like a common statement from people is they're just like, I don't understand how to make optics works because it's so complicated and there's so much you can do. And the same thing, people say the same thing about Photoshop, right? When you're getting into Photoshop, you're just like, oh my God, there's so much you can do. It's so overwhelming. And it's like, man, just make it easier on yourself. Like if you're first getting into this and it's like stressing you out, all these different options here on the right, don't worry about it. Just stick to whatever this is and like grab this little one of these little like markers here in the middle and slide it around a little bit and see what happens. And then like just stick with that. And that's fine. You don't have to do more than that. It's all okay. Like this is the thing that I think people really stress out about when it comes to making these kinds of images is they're worried that it's not going to be perfect. And guys, we're not practicing law or medicine. We can practice this in our basement. We will not go to jail if our image is bad. And then the next day when we come back, our image will be better because we will put time in. And maybe some days it'll be worse, but that's also just how it is. It's just life, man. It just is kind of messy. So yeah, just like take the pressure off yourself. Don't stress too much. One thing that I do love about this is the chroma distort though. It is pretty cool. And I discovered this one by pushing a slider a little too far. And I was like, oh, well, that's fun. Look at that. And it kind of creates these like chromatic aberration that I really, really enjoy. I think it's quite fun. Let me see, glow brightness. Sometimes this is fun. Sometimes it looks terrible. This time it looks good. The one thing that I'm trying to avoid here is her hand has completely disappeared. And I don't remember which slider it was to make that less brutal. Defocus width. Let's see what that does.
That's the one.
Yeah. I'm just like waiting for my computer to catch up. There we go. We're getting a little bit more. So we're getting a little bit more of this hand here. This one here is still a little bit, but that's okay.
What you could also do is maybe just adjust the defocus or the focal point as well.
Yeah.
Because there is a little focal point in there just to bring things
just
over.
to like make these around a little bit. But also like, I mean, I'm like the intention is to make it an imperfect image. So like I kind of want this to feel, like I said, I want this to feel like it was a memory, like you dreamed it and you just woke up and you're trying to just like loosely grab the threads of that dream. That's kind of what I want this to look like. But yeah, so we're gonna just hit create a new layer on that one because I think that's good enough. Again, like I said, everything is just kind of always like, it's fine. So weirdly enough, normally auto adjust stuff I don't like at all, but every now and then this does good work. So I tend to use the auto levels a fair bit, but I turn it down. And again, like sometimes it's just is good enough. Like you don't have to do everything perfectly manually every single time, especially straight out of the gate if you're just learning how to use this. That's too much. It just has to get you there. You got to make it like simple on yourself. So from here, I'm going to Film Lab as well. Gonna go to looks. And Halo is the one that I used before, and I really, really like it. But there's so many here. Like you could just scroll forever. So I get why some people say like, oh, it's intimidating. There's too much. But also it's just so fun. Like this is like you get sometimes paralyzed by choice, which I'm into that. Paralyze me, give me choices. You know, I want to like think about this stuff. And I mean, if I find here, like, because I've gone down to my auto adjust and I turned it down a little bit too far, I can just double click on this again and I can turn this back up just a little bit more, and maybe not 100, because this film layer on top of it does kind of soften it, but now I'm clipping the bottom of her dress. So go back to auto adjust, let my computer catch up. And I know there's other things that I could do to make this a little bit less, but come on. There we go. Still a little hot. Let's see, brightness. There we go. So while I could have done all of those adjustments again here with auto and looks and everything else, I can still just go in here and just reduce the brightness, which is really, really easy. Because again, like I can go in and just like very loosely, badly dodge and burn some of this stuff and watch Ben have a stroke while I do it with like a loose brush and a mouse, because I unplugged my tablet today.
I'm very glad that people can't see me shaking my head at this moment.
just twitching. I'm like, this is not okay. This is not okay. But yeah, and then from here, I just went into Film Lab again, and I went into the film stocks as well. And let me see this one here. So this is another one, like all of these are just, they're exactly, I mean, I remember some of these films back when I was modeling, because I was modeling before digital cameras were a thing. And I remember the look of lots of these when different photographers would use them, and you get the images back and go like, what? Film makes that much of a difference? Like, that's crazy. But yeah, so here, like I can adjust the curves just a tiny little bit. And again, just like trying to keep this like nice and simple. See, again, trying to not burn out too much of that skirt. Maybe just turn down the opacity of the layer itself just a little bit. Wait for it to re-render. But yeah, all in all, I mean, that's looking pretty good, and I'm willing to hit like apply on it. But the one thing that you can do to save yourself a whole bunch of time is you go up here, is you go file, and then you save the setup. And so basically what this does is this creates like a preset. So I am very pro saving workflow pieces. And if I had done this as a smart object, then we'd be able to go back and forth, but I forgot, because smart objects take up a lot of power, and we're trying to make sure my computer doesn't crash while we're doing this live. So I did not use a smart object. But here we can go file, save setup. And then I can basically call this optics live stream M. And then I can hit save. And then I can hit apply. And then basically I can go in now, and any of the other images that I have photographed in this series that I think might look good with that preset, I can just go and open that and apply it to these images. So that saves so much work. Oh my God. Especially if you're trying to do like a series. And did I just freeze? Because that's possible.
No. I mean, you started to verge onto robot, but we kind of pulled it back at the last second. So that was good.
Awesome. Yeah.
But no, I mean that saving the setup is such a good trick if you are working with series, or if you're working with like a commercial lookbook or something where you want to have that same feeling across, you know, tens or hundreds of different shots. Then, you know, save the setup, and you can just batch them straight out of optics as well, so you don't even have to you know, load them up as a Photoshop action or anything like that. Just batch them up in optics.
And then on the other side too, like you can share those, as far as I know, right?
Absolutely.
Like, so if you have multiple people, working on your team, and there's like 6 of you, you just like send over the preset, and then all of you can deliver these images at the exact same time. So Yeah, that is a huge time saver. So I wonder how long it will be until there's, I mean, maybe there already is, but a marketplace for optics presets. Because if there isn't one, there probably should be.
Yeah, we're very bad business people in that sense. We keep giving away stuff for free. It's really bad. It's a really bad idea. Like all of those presets, we just got hundreds more that it's just like, oh yeah, give them away for free. Why not?
I just mean of like the secondary user market, like people
Oh
like
yeah,
myself, like when that will open up. So maybe that's something that we'll do.
I'd love that.
We're just gonna wait for my computer to catch up here, and boom, there we go.
Hey,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like it really, especially when I'm not live streaming, it doesn't take very long to do this. And then this is the one that I made on my own time. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty fun for me. Like that's pretty exciting. And yeah, the fact that we can save them and then just reuse them, like I can make an entire body of work like this over 10 years if I wanted to, and just modify the same file over and over again. It's awesome.
that's really good. It's really nice to sort of see. I mean, it's just you kind of hit the nail on the head as well with optics. Is one of my favorite things about it is just how freeing it is to go in and play. Like you've got a sort of general idea of what it is you want to do, but actually once you get inside of optics, there's just you've just got this paint box filled with hundreds of different colors of paint, so you can start to just splodge things in and just see what starts to look good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I just did like a very quick, it's very subtle on the hair here, just with the dodge tool, which I wouldn't normally use the dodge tool, but for the sake of simplicity today, just set to highlights and 2% and just kind of like click and push.
Brings it up, makes it pop a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the dodge tool is like sketchy because it pushes saturation as well, which is often too much. But I mean,
which is why we use it on a 50% gray layer. But
yeah. Well, I mean, I just duplicated the layer.
I know. I'm teasing. No, this is brilliant. Like just a couple of quickies from chat as well. Like, do you find it difficult to get non-models at ease when you're photographing them, and do you have any tricks for getting what you want from these non-models?
I mean, there's so one really great resource if you're trying to figure out how to get reactions from people who are not models is talk to headshot photographers. Peter Hurley's headshot crew has got a lot of really good tips on how to get people to relax, and how to get like genuine reactions out of them. It really depends. But one of the ones that I like to do is I like to make sure that they watch me try to do it and like kind of maybe not do the best job, but just reminding them that it's like it's okay. Like there isn't going to be a photo that you don't like going out. Like I photograph everything tethered to the computer so they can see the images as they're coming up. And, if there's anything where they're just like, oh God, I'm like, cool, we're avoiding that. Next, like moving on. And just like building up their confidence and making them feel like, comfortable in front of the camera of just being like, oh, you really, like one of the basic ones is which side of your face do you like more? And that will also depend on who I cast. Also, like if I'm working with people for the first time and I don't really know what side of their face they want, but I want artwork that is like has very strict art direction, then I'll ask people when I'm casting them, hey, which side of your face do you like more? And if someone says like, I don't care, I'm like, perfect, right on, awesome. But most people, they do have a preference of what side of the face they like. We live in the world of selfies and people know what they look like on camera, or at least they think they know what they look like on camera because they have this device in their hands all the time. Yeah. So those are always things that I'm always trying to keep in mind is just, how do I put myself in their shoes and how would I want someone to make me feel more comfortable? And I'll start there. And, usually that's a good place to start from.
Well, also people are always scared of making mistakes as well.
Yeah. Like this isn't film anymore. This isn't film. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. And that's something that, if you is really important to communicate to people. It's like you can't make irreparable mistakes on this. Like your mistake cost me the energy that it takes to do that.
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, I want to make sure everyone has fun. I want to make sure that they've had a good time, and I want to make sure that they walk out of there feeling great, and like having like a lot of conversation times ahead of time, meeting people ahead of time if you can, and just being like really talking through the process, how you like to work, your expectations as well, so that they have kind of an idea of what you're like to work with. All of that stuff can really help build a successful shoot.
Excellent. And another one like this has come up a couple of times as well. And it's something you've mentioned, very just in passing a couple of times, is about your art book. And someone asks, when might we see your book, please?
Yeah, so I have been working on it I was really hoping to have it launched this summer. And then life came along and delivered some rather unexpected challenges I have no control over what's going on. So it's been pushed a little bit. I haven't had the chance to work on it since the new year, but I am back working on it right now. And so I am really hoping, really hoping somewhere in the next 6 to 12 months that this thing's going to come out. It has been so many years, and it is so much work. If anyone has done an art book before, even just the Kickstarter alone is just anxiety inducing. But we're getting there. It is still coming. I promise it is still coming. It is just
where do people find out more?
Yeah, so basically so it's up right now. There is a sign up for art book updates on my website, reneerobyn.com. And so there's just an art book link there. And I'm actually going to be updating that quite soon here with more information, because right now it's this black box of a project that myself and another artist have held really closely for a number of years. And I feel like even though it's not quite ready to go out and the Kickstarter isn't quite done yet, I feel like it's time to start leaking some of it. So it is an augmented reality art book. And so that's one thing to keep in mind is it's an AR book. So it is a print book with an augmented reality section.
Ooh.
You're going to need your phone for it.
We've got lots of people in my ear just saying they're signing up for it right now. All right. So what I can hear is digital footsteps running to your website to sign up for this. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's my first augmented reality project. And I was like, why start small? Let's do a book.
Absolutely, yeah. The lowest pressure way of doing anything. Nice bound art book.
Yeah, it's 300 pages. Goodness. This book you can commit crimes with. Yeah, it's 300 pages so far. It's just massive.
Okay, and before we go, we are going to have to go in just a minute, but we can't go without giving people what we promised we'd give them. And we promised we'd give them some of your animals, your AI animals collection.
There we go.
So you've talk us a little bit through these.
I just wanted to put cats in 15th century armor, and then cats in different types of period clothing and kimonos, and this is my church mouse, and he's so freaking cute. Oh, I love him so much. He's so adorable. And this is the thing I love about this, and this is what it is about when I consume digital art from other artists, is this is stuff that I will not make. I will never make it. This is tabloid media for me, but I absolutely love it. It's so ridiculous. And I would love to say that I would take the time to make this stuff, but it's not going to happen because I don't know how to do 3D. This is my cat Sherlock, or at least I attempted to make my cat Sherlock. This is the previous version of Midjourney, so it wasn't the cigars are a little floaty. But this I popped out today. I put a black cat with the dressed as the most famous detective in the world. So
it's so good. I love all of this stuff.
Yeah, so those are chinchillas as Renaissance painters. Like, I love this
Okay.
crap so much. It's just garbage, you know? And it's like, it's just easy little dopamine hit of a little bit of an antidepressant where I'm just like, ha, that's awesome.
Oh, they're so handsome. They're so handsome. But
Look at
yeah.
those faces.
Well,
But
I'm
yeah.
going to say this has been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for being with us here today and for showing us some of your work. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. I super appreciate it. And for everyone who's been like watching and comments and questions and everything. I do tend to go back and scan the chat for any questions that may have been missed. So if you wrote anything not nice in there, I'm going to read it and that's going to suck, but that's okay. But
And if you're watching the replay, you've still got time to put in your questions in the comments, though. If you're watching the replay.
Yeah. So I will go in and I will, like, you know, in a few days I'll pop in and just like check out if there's any questions in the comments. You know, I try to answer stuff anyways, because yeah, if you took the time to write it, I'll try to take the time to answer it.
And where can people find more of you?
I am spattered all over the internet like a shotgun blast. So if you search any version of Renee Robyn, which is on YouTube, or Renee Robyn Photo, which is on TikTok and Twitter, or Renee Robyn Photography, which is Instagram and Facebook, and Threads, if anybody's still using Threads, and Vero, and it was basically I'm there. You can find me. So
Perfect.
yeah, and I'm trying to be pretty achievable and reachable on all of the social media. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Again, thank you for all your time and all of your insight. It's been a delight. It really has.
Thank you for having me.
Alrighty. Well, let's head on to the last bit of the show today, which is going to be me thanking you for your time as well and for all your great questions. And as a reward, we are going to get out the super special Boris FX Tombola. But remember, if you've enjoyed what's going on, there's a little button that looks a little bit like that. Make sure you press it. You get confetti. It looks brilliant. Unless you're on obviously the mobile devices, then you don't get confetti, which I think is a shame. But yes, absolutely, yeah. If you are hitting that thumbs up button on the YouTube website, you get confetti, and there's no bigger dopamine hit than that. All right, almost. All right, let's give away some prizes. Actually, I've got one big prize left. We've already given away 2 prizes today. I've got one big prize left, and that is the Boris FX Suite. It's a 1-year subscription. It is worth $1,295, and we're giving away to one lucky winner. I'm pressing the button. We're rolling the dice. We're rolling it. It's coming. Congratulations to you. You are our lucky winner, and you are Peggy Ann Casey. Peggy Ann, congratulations. You are walking away, nay, skipping away, nay, hopping away with a 1-year subscription of the Boris FX Suite. And all you did was enjoy yourself for the last hour and a half. Now, thank you very much, Peggy Ann. Thank you very much to all of our winners today. And thank you very much to everyone else watching here. We will be back with another Boris FX Live very soon. If you want to learn more about details of that, head on over to borisfxlive.com. But for now, thank you very much to you. Thank you very much to our guest, Renee Robyn, and a big thank you to all who help make these possible in Mission Control. I don't know what's going on anymore. I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you, everyone. My name's Ben Brownlee for Boris FX. I remember that bit. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.